Welcome to the GAMERamble video review for Roundabout, narrated by me, Dark Cloud. As always, the full text version of this review can be found on the GAMERamble website linked below. The TLDR for Roundabout is that it's a game about traversing narrow city streets to get your passengers to their destination. The catch is that your limousine constantly rotates, so good timing is required to avoid hitting obstacles and blowing up. It's a very short game but lots of fun, and the cheesy FMV scenes must be seen to be believed. The game is also very forgiving, so anyone should be able to enjoy it despite the challenging concept. Gameplay receives an 8 out of 10. The game requires timing and patience, but successfully dodging obstacles is very satisfying. Graphics receives a 7 out of 10. The visuals are not spectacular, but are colorful and charming. Sound receives an 8 out of 10. The soundtrack is very fitting, as is the unconvincing voice acting. The overall score for Roundabout is 7.7 out of 10. And now for the full review. Roundabout is what happens if you mix a dash of the original Grand Theft Auto with a pinch of Kuru Kuru Kururin, then let it stew in some crazy taxi and sprinkle it liberally with some 70s B-movie cheesiness. It's the story of Giorgio Manos, who, as the narrator informs us, is the world's first revolving chauffeur. Driving a massive limousine is tricky enough in a city with narrow roads and roundabouts, but having to deal with it constantly rotating adds a whole new level of challenge. However, players will have to help Giorgio accomplish this in order to help out the weird and wonderful passengers in Roundabout. Anyone who has played the Game Boy Advance title Kuru Kuru Kururin will know precisely what Roundabout expects from them. The former was a puzzle title that saw players having to move a stick that was constantly rotating through a maze without letting it touch any of the walls. Roundabout follows the same theme, but replaces the stick with a limousine and the maze with a city. The open world setting for Roundabout is very Grand Theft Auto inspired and features an overhead perspective similar to the first game in the Rockstar series. The city is split into 3 distinct zones which open up as players progresses through the storyline. Missions in Roundabout generally consist of driving to an indicated spot, watching a silly FMV of your passengers telling Giorgio where they want to go, and then following some markers to the destination where another FMV kicks in. To say that these FMV scenes are cheesy would be an understatement, and in the best B-movie tradition, they are filled with people hamming it up, glancing directly into the camera, and attempting ridiculous accents. It feels like everyone featured in the cutscenes were just given a costume or a wig along with their lines and then told to get on with it to ensure it's all as stiff and awkward as possible. There's even a skeleton prop featured as a passenger, complete with the very visible hands of whoever is off-screen manipulating his movement. It's all absurd, over the top, and very funny. Roundabout is not a very complex game, but it can be very tricky. There is a slight learning curve involved when timing your limousine's movement so that it matches the rotation required to curve around obstacles safely. Make a mistake and you will inevitably bump into something, which can cause your vehicle to explode if you do it once too many. Fortunately, the game is very generous with its checkpoints, so you'll usually restart nearby. While you can't control the speed of your rotation, you can change the direction by hitting the conveniently placed blue tire stack in the game. Later on, you'll also be able to unlock the ability to change its rotation on the fly. Other skills that can be unlocked range from shrinking your limousine to driving on water and even shooting traffic cones at pedestrians. Eventually, you'll find your limo can even jump and perform a speed boost. To add a bit of variety to the game, Roundabout also features several minigame style challenges. These range from seeing how many times you can bounce a soccer ball on the roof of your limousine to trying to survive as long as possible in an enclosed arena while cars fall out of the sky. Once unlocked, these challenges can also be played outside of the main story mode, and the game even features leaderboards so you can see how you stack up against other players. The missions, which mainly consist of driving from point A to B, also have optional challenges. These are not essential to completing the actual missions, but are great for players who want to put their skills to the test. The challenges cover everything from completing the mission under a particular time or collecting all the pickups along the way to not hitting anything or reaching a certain combo level. Not all have to be done at once, so players can focus on one at a time, and missions can be replayed anytime by returning to the starting spot. To add even more longevity to the game, players can explore the city and buy properties, which then generate additional income. Bundles of cash and new horns for the limousine are also tucked away everywhere. We would like the ability to fast travel straight to different zones and missions, as navigating the city to search for all the cash and horns after completing the main storyline can be tedious. The visuals in Roundabout are not spectacular, and despite everything being in 3D, it has more in common with the first 2 GTA games than the newest ones. Still, there's plenty of destructible scenery, and driving over pedestrians also leaves blood smears on the road instead of the usual skid marks. In keeping with the surreal nature of the game, players can even use their hard-earned cash to buy new hats and paint jobs for the limousine. On the other hand, the FMV, which is almost set entirely in the back of the limousine, looks as cheap and fake as one would expect from a 70s B-movie. Speaking of the 70s, the soundtrack also perfectly nails this era's vibe. While Giorgio never utters a word during the game, the narrator and other characters more than make up for this. Overall, Roundabout is a very fun game, and the generous checkpoints ensure it never becomes frustrating. However, it is also a very short experience, as demonstrated by the unlockable esports speedrun mode. This mode challenges players to complete every mission in the game sequentially in the fastest time possible, but strips out all of the narration and cutscenes. Most players should be able to complete this in 30 minutes or less. On the other hand, there is also an unlockable desert limo mode, which challenges players to drive an uninterrupted 8 hours along a straight road in a first-person view. Letting go of the controls is not an option, as the limo veers left and right occasionally, and leaving the road results in failure. It's obviously an homage to the Desert Bus minigame from Penn and Teller's Smoke and Mirrors, but completing it awards players with a Steam achievement. All of this means that there's plenty of things to keep players busy after completing the main storyline. Roundabout is not groundbreaking in any way, but it is fun, and it feels like everyone who worked on it also had a lot of fun, judging by how quirky it is. Thanks for joining me for this Roundabout PC review. Remember to like, subscribe and share. Until next time.